Welcome to Power Up with NSA North Texas, a show about finding, hearing, and maximizing valuable insights from some of the world's leading business and lifestyle speakers. Each week, international keynote speaker and National Speakers Association North Texas chapter president Betti sits down with some of the most exciting speakers this side of the globe to hear from these subject matter experts what's making a difference in business today and learn all there is to know about people, profits, and productivity in business from some of the world's best motivators. This is Power Up with NSA North Texas. And now, here's your host, Betti.
Everybody, I'm your host, Betti, President for NSA National Speakers Association North Texas chapter here in Dallas. The NSA National Speakers Association is the premier organization for professional speakers. Our members reach audiences as thought leaders, authors, consultants, coaches, trainers, educators, motivators, and we motivate every day around the globe. This show is going to give you some of the ideas about cutting-edge topics and issues and messages that companies want to hear, that they want the solutions to. And they're getting those solutions every day from our subject matter experts here at NSA National Speakers Association. So I've got a fantastic subject matter expert with me today. My guest here is Mr. Derrich Phillips. Hi, Derrich.
How's it going, Betti?
I'm
happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Derrich is going to talk to us about resiliency, how to adapt to change, recovering from setbacks, and overcoming adversity. And he knows that from the ground up. His bio is something like this. He has an MBA. He is a motivational keynote speaker who empowers both kids, youths, adults, and he helps them tap into their resiliency and overcome every type of adversity you can imagine. He's also, as you can tell by what he's wearing, a proud Army veteran. He served 3 combat tours in Iraq, 2 combat tours in Afghanistan, and was a cyber warfare specialist. Wow, we're going to talk about that. Derrich has influenced thousands as a resiliency expert, and he has numerous degrees as a professional cybersecurity certifications, and he served in senior level cybersecurity level positions, right, with Lockheed Martin and Hewlett Packard. I'm amazed. Okay, I'm honored to have you on the show today. Derrich also grew up in poverty, which he's going to talk about the adversity there. We're very, very proud of him within NSA, National Speakers Association North Texas chapter. He is a speaker coach for TEDx Plano, and he is also our NSA North Texas Academy coordinator. And the Academy is a learning vehicle that takes place for 4 months in a row, teaching speakers the actual business of speaking. So he is going to be very active in our Spring Academy, which actually starts up this Saturday. Woohoo. Mr. Derrich is thrilled. He's empowering. He's actually thrilling and empowering to people, and especially youth that are at risk, and he wants to break that generational poverty cycle. He helps organizations boost their resiliency, empower their competitive edge, and enough about that. I'm ready to talk to Derrich.
The show on the road.
Okay, let's get the show on the road. So Derrich, talk to me. What do you find most fulfilling when you speak to companies about resiliency?
Betti,
What drives you?
What I find most fulfilling is when I go into an organization and they have a set objectives or things they want to accomplish, but helping them realize that they can accomplish so much more than what they originally thought was possible. So helping them realize that, hey, you're just brushing off the surface. There's so much more that you can accomplish once you realize just how strong you are, just how resilient you are as an individual, as an organization. So okay. I love it.
All right, I can tell by speaking with you this week. How has your personal and your professional experience prepared you to speak on resiliency? I'm sure you had to find your own resiliency. So kind of give me a story there.
I always jokingly say my middle name is Resiliency because from a child I really had to overcome a lot of adversity. Growing up in poverty in Gary, Indiana, where a lot of times I tell people from Gary, they automatically think of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. Mm-hmm. But also, during the time I grew up there in the 90s, Gary had the dubious title of murder capital of the United States.
Really?
So definitely plagued by crack cocaine, gangs, drugs. So on a daily basis, it was just overcoming a lot of adversity that I faced on a daily basis. And when I was 11 years old, it was probably that pivotal point in my life where from a time towards the end of my 5th grade year, over a span of about 5 months, we went from being evicted then moving to a homeless shelter, my mom and I. So the last 2 months of my 5th grade year, I was catching the public city bus to school every day, 5th grade. And that definitely required a lot of resiliency. And from there, that following summer, we actually were homeless. We lived in our van for the entire summer. And that experience taught me a lot about resiliency. It taught me just how, as humans, just how resilient we are. Things that we think we have to, that's required as far as running water, a roof over your head, things like that. We really don't need all those things. We can survive with so much less than what we think we can. So there's a lot of strength in that. So that taught me a valuable lesson, realizing, like, wow, enduring being homeless, that really gave me realize, like, just how strong I am as an individual, and just when I felt like it was rock bottom, having that faith to know, okay, it could always be worse, and that, hey, it's going to get better. Things are not going to be that bad forever, and just keeping that faith and just being resilient. So it certainly, I had to endure it firsthand, but I'm happy I did, because it was, in hindsight, it was a blessing in disguise.
Isn't that interesting? How things like that can become blessings in disguise. And I look at you and that wide smile that you've got, and I think, my gosh, I'd never think that this guy had that kind of a history. Yet you lived through that, and it helped mold you and make you what you are today.
Gives me a story.
That's right. That's right. Well, also, I would imagine your combat experience, you had to learn to be resilient there also. Talk to me about that.
Big time. So growing up in Gary, I viewed that as urban warfare, urban combat zone. But with the military, and the backstory with that is I joined the Army 9 months after 9/11. And I remember my senior year of high school, getting ready for class, I was watching the news and actually seeing that second plane fly into the tower. So witnessing those first responders running towards danger, running in those buildings to save people, while everyone else was running away, of course, to save themselves, I realized that was something that I wanted to be a part of. That was the courage that I wanted to show. That was the resiliency that I wanted to demonstrate. And so I joined the military and Army. And
you joined right after that?
9 months later. So 2 weeks after high school graduation, I was in Army boot camp.
Where'd you go to boot camp?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay.
It gets pretty hot there in the summer.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I ended up there, and I just learned a valuable lesson in terms, like I said, I wanted to be a part of those people running towards the fires, running towards the challenges instead of running away. And that's a valuable lesson for organizations, where those are the people you want on your team running towards those challenges.
Not backing up.
Not necessarily not life and death situations like the military, but hey, or first responders, but as your organization, you want people with it, like I said, not going to back away from challenges, because that's going to demonstrate your organization's resiliency. And it's
exactly.
Good things happen when you.
It's not probably also, I have found, it's not probably organizational challenges as it is also changes. Because when change is taking place in an organization, so many people want to just hide, go somewhere else, not be part of it, and say, oh gosh, if I don't look at you, you're not going to see me. That way, I'm not going to have to change. I don't have to, make a scary decision here. But if the more resilient people become, actually, the better.
Big time.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point as far as change. As humans, we naturally want to remain comfortable. We want to avoid change. But with change, it requires you to be resilient. But there's so many possibilities on the other side of that change, on the other side of your fears or whatever you're trying to avoid. You'll never discover those possibilities if you don't embrace that change, if you don't embrace the struggle,
Very
the process.
True. And do you agree that the more we are challenged to change, the more we are challenged to confront change, step up to it, and utilize our resiliency, the better we get at it?
Big time. You get better at it, and you just get stronger.
Yeah, you do. It's like, bring it on. I can handle this.
Because also, people have to realize, if you remain comfortable, if you remain just doing what you've already done, you don't know what you can do. You don't know what's possible. You don't know how strong you really are. But the more you embrace change, the more you demonstrate your resiliency, the stronger you get, and hey, there's nothing you can't do.
I agree. I got to see you actually in action at a phenomenal keynote that you gave a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that you talked about was being battle ready. Yeah. Talk to me about your concept of battle ready, because on the stage, you took on that stage, you were powerful on that stage, you talked about being battle ready. You were doing jumping up and down. You were doing stuff we can't really do in here. Okay, but talk to me about the concept of being battle ready?
The concept of battle ready is really just assessing what your organization goals are. What do you want to accomplish? Then from there you have to, okay, what's standing in our way? What are the threats? What are the obstacles that stand in the way between what we want to accomplish and where we are now and what we want to accomplish?
So you're taking this from not just a personal perspective, but also professional, working in an organization all the way up to leadership,
Right.
seeing what's going on and being battle ready for it and getting ready and tackling it, right?
Exactly, because in your personal life, you're dealing with battles on a daily basis, and then also in your organization, I call business is a battlefield as well. You have to realize with your competition, they want to put you out of business.
That's
and
right.
You're dealing with all type of other challenges, so you really have to, you can't run from those challenges. You can't run from those battles. You have to be prepared for them, and that's what battle ready is all about, preparing for it.
How do you actually prepare to be battle ready? I mean, you start doing some self-talk, or how do you get going as far as preparing yourself? You know you're coming into a tough situation, a challenging situation.
Right.
What do you do? What do you do?
One of the most important things to do is, in the military, we call it being battle tested. And you really want to take an assessment, okay, what have you already overcame? What challenges have you endured? What things have you done in life? So you want to take an assessment of that, and that's going to help you identify, okay, what you're capable of. So a lot of times people in organizations forget about what they've already accomplished because they're so focused on that next goal, and they don't think that they can accomplish it, but they don't realize that they've already maybe accomplished much more. So going back to what I said, being homeless for me. So now when I encounter a challenge, I know, hey, Derrich, you endured being homeless as a kid. You endured growing up in Gary, Indiana.
I can do this, right?
I can do this. This is nothing.
Do this.
And a practical example of that is recently I ran a marathon I think it was last Sunday, the Cowtown Marathon in Fort Worth. I hadn't ran more than 3 miles in over 15 years. But I knew that I had the mental strength to do it. Now I just had to train to physically be able to do it. So it's just kind of the same approach with any obstacle you're facing in life. Identify what you've already accomplished, and then identify the shortfalls you have, what's going to be standing in the way between you and that objective. And then, hey, you just put those things into place, and you can accomplish it. You'll be battle ready.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So for organizations, if they embrace the whole idea of being resilient and being battle ready, what are the benefits they can see when they start boosting that resiliency within their organization? It becomes almost a culture. It becomes part of their culture. Very important. So what are some of the benefits organizations can see from that?
Big time. So the first thing they're going to see is a resilient organization is a profitable organization. A resilient organization is a efficient organization. They have high productivity. And then also an important thing is the members of your organization, once they realize that they're tapping into their resiliency and the resilience of the organization, they're more likely to be innovative. They're more likely to think outside of the box and do things that's not the status quo. So those all tie into productivity and really helping to promote your organization's mission. So definitely resiliency is the key from the CEO all the way down to the frontline employee.
Right. It gets you excited too when you're resilient. It makes
time.
you. Sometimes you have to step back and say, "Wow, I really accomplished that. I was resilient. I came out of that okay,
I did that,
and I'm okay. I can do that again."
I survived.
One of the things that I've always found in corporations where sometimes, wow, it's like hitting a brick wall, is in the area of technology and changing technology.
Right.
What tips do you have for organizations that are going through a lot of technology changes for both the organization and employees?
Right. So what technology is, a lot of times organizations, they'll get focused on what we call the shiny object syndrome, where they want the latest and greatest. But it kind of goes back to really assessing what your organization objectives are and making sure that whatever new technology you're adopting, it aligns with your organization objectives. So just because there's new technology, it may not be the right fit for your organization. So you don't want to just go spend all this money on this technology and you don't really need it. So in cybersecurity, one thing we always say is you don't want to spend $20 to protect $5. So a lot of times organizations do that.
Makes sense.
They have overkill. They spend so much money on this technology that it's not going to make them more profitable. It's not going to make them more efficient or any of those things. But a lot of times organizations, they think, hey, I have to have it because it's the latest and greatest.
It's the latest and greatest, but they really haven't done their homework and figure out if it's really going to be that productive.
And then also organizations have to make sure they have the right personnel to maintain that technology, because it doesn't help if you have the latest and greatest, but no one knows how to work it. So it's going to be a paperweight, an expensive paperweight. And I've seen that a lot in my career where, organizations spend a lot of money on technology that they don't need.
They really didn't need.
They don't know how to work it. It's a paperweight.
Gotcha. I want to kind of go back to your combat career and how you served. And I know that in the presentation I saw a few weeks ago from the keynote on the stage that you were at, which did a phenomenal job. You really, just a very powerful speaker. Talk to me about some of the leadership principles that you learned when you did your service over in Iraq and Afghanistan in the military. Talk to me about some of the leadership principles you learned there.
Some of those core leadership principles were, as far as leaders, always lead from the front. That's something that's just drilled in us in the military, where you have to lead by example if you're a leader. It's not do as I say, not as I do type of approach to leadership. You have to lead by example. Be willing to get in the trenches with your employees, people in your organization. You can't just lead from the top down. It has to be willing to get on those front lines. And also just the communication and collaboration. All those things are very important. And it's something that I really realized when I was working in Afghanistan. So one of my team's responsible for doing aerial surveillance for special forces, Navy SEALs, and other military special forces. So with aerial surveillance, think of like a big blimp with an expensive, it's like a $25 million camera on it. and we operate that camera from our tactical operations center. And the purpose of that is that camera can see 26 miles out. So basically when those special forces units are going out to conduct their missions, to catch terrorists or whatever they were doing, they relied on us to be able to be their eyes in the sky, to tell them, okay, threats are up ahead, and this is what you should watch out for. So we're in constant communication with them. And that really just taught me a lot just about how important it is when you're resilient. You don't have to do it all alone. You have to be able to realize it's a team effort. You have to collaborate and utilize all of your resources, your partnerships, and your employees. Everyone, it's a team effort. So
the value of the team.
Value of the team. So you think about with special forces, the most elite and fighting forces on the planet. They realized they couldn't do it all alone. They didn't realize they couldn't.
It's so true.
All over. So
you've hit on at least a couple, and I know you got some more, but I want to just talk or just touch on a couple of things that you said. Leading from the front. I remember my Grandpa Coffee back in Denver, Colorado.
Grandpa Coffee.
Grandpa Coffee, yeah, Grandpa Coffee. Anyway, Grandpa Coffee always used to say, honey girl, when you go to work, when you're going to go to work, you take your coat off, you take your hat off, you put them on the coat rack. Back then they had coat racks and they wore hats. And you roll up your sleeves and you get in there with everybody else. And no job is too menial. Because when you're working with people, you're working with teams, and they actually see you roll up your sleeves and get down to work and work with them, that's powerful.
Very powerful.
Whether it's in, civilian life or especially military.
Big time.
But that really, I think, is the key of a leadership. I remember when I was in corporate America, and I thought that some of the strongest CEOs I ever met were the guys that would literally go down into the call centers of their organizations and sit with the people in the call centers, and really understand some of the calls they were getting, some of the stress it took out on them, how they didn't have enough of the information at hand to answer questions as fastly and as quickly as they wanted to. It was the guys that literally took off their coats and their hats and went on down.
So get in the trenches.
Get in the trenches. And find out actually what's going on. So I think you become more powerful and much more resilient that way.
Big time.
Resilient to change and to making changes because you actually know what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, you got that perspective, different perspective once you're actually down there with at whatever level.
And the military, sir, you did a lot of selfless service. And that goes into leadership today too, doesn't it?
Big time. Certainly selfless service. That's a core Army values. Where essentially you're serving, but you're not expecting anything in return. That's the whole motivation behind your service, is you really want to make an impact on people's lives. It's not about how much money you're making. It's not about what you're going to get in return. You're serving for that purpose. So that's really what it's all about. I think it's vital to be, as far as being a leader, is that you're a selfless servant.
And talk to me about integrity. Yes, integrity, because you spoke from the stage on integrity most eloquently, and how important that is.
Can't forget about integrity. And in the Army, what we say with integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching. So that's so important. It's easy to do the right thing when people are watching you. When someone's looking over your shoulder, that doesn't require any resilience or discipline to do the right thing. But when you think no one's watching, the key word, think no one's watching. Someone's always watching.
Yeah.
Even if it's only you, then that's when you're really challenged to do the right thing. But that's when it's going to pay off the most. When you have the discipline, the resilience to do the right thing when no one's watching, that's when you'll see the greatest results. And
that's true integrity.
True integrity,
Love
certainly.
It. Let's talk about the cybersecurity projects that you worked on. I know that you worked with Hewlett-Packard during the largest divestiture in corporate history. Yes. Oh my gosh, tell me about that. Did you have to have a little resiliency on that one?
Big time.
Just a little.
I came on board with Hewlett-Packard in 2015 as an information security officer, and it was my role essentially as the senior project manager to manage projects from idea to implementation, so along that whole lifespan. And during that divestiture, we were going from splitting into two different companies, going from 300,000 employees worldwide into two separate companies. And it was a lot of change going on. Every day was so much change going on. And while we were splitting into two different companies, we were also acquiring new companies at the same time. So
a lot of miscommunication, a lot of challenges, lots of fear. Lots of territorial possessiveness going on, right?
Everything. And then you think about with the fear, because you think about employees, when you're doing a major change like that, a major split, employees are worried about, are they going to have a job tomorrow?
Yes.
So the communication from leadership to let the employees know what's going on every step along the way is so critical, because if leaders don't communicate that with their employees, then employees are going to assume.
That's right. You can never over-communicate.
Never over-communicate. That really taught me that. And while acquiring new companies, one of the acquisitions I worked on was with Aruba. That was one of the Aruba networks. It ended up being a really successful acquisition for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. But we're bringing on a company and having to really integrate them into our culture. So that was a huge challenge in terms of, they had to be resilient, we had to be resilient, we had to communicate constantly. And of course we made mistakes along the way, but a big part of that is we identified those mistakes, and it was always refining and identifying, okay, how can we improve?
Right.
What went right, what went wrong? And that was a major concept in the military, where we always did what we call after action reviews, after every mission, is realizing, okay, what went right, what went wrong, how can we improve? So you can do that every time, and whether as an individual or as an organization, just doing those reviews to.
That's so important. Sometimes we get so busy in corporate America that you forget to do that. You have all the good intentions, but you forget to do that. And it's easy to just pull the team back and say, okay, what really went well? No finger pointing. Where could we improve upon?
Right. And it's vital to do it right at the end, not okay, we're going to do it a couple weeks later, because you forget those things.
Right.
You want to do it right before you say, okay, we're done. That's when you want to do that action item review.
So I've got a question for you. How important is purpose to you? In my short experience in having you in our chapter, National Speakers Association chapter, you've been fantastic. But I got a feeling that purpose is incredibly important to you. Share that with our audience.
Purpose is very important, because purpose really is the foundation. It should be like your guiding compass to everything you do. So as an organization, whatever your products and services you're offering should align to your organization's mission, your organization's purpose, because that's going to keep you on track. That's going to let you know when you're veering off track also. So as long as you're maintaining sight with what your purpose is, and as an individual, I say what you're put on this earth to do, then that's going to answer everything for you. That's going to let you know what direction you should be heading if you're
and that
doing the
purpose
right
can
things.
Change, right?
Big time.
Purpose can change, things change, and we have to be resilient to it.
Big time. And that kind of goes back to the battle ready theme, where as you're walking in your purpose, you're going to encounter obstacles. You're going to encounter adversity or things that's going to try to knock you off that path to do something else. Because they say if you don't know your purpose, then you're going to follow someone else's purpose.
Yes.
So you have to be ready for those challenges and really keep sight in mind, okay, what is my destination? What is my objective? Because you know you're going to have challenges along the way and roadblocks and detours. But as long as you stay focused on that, you'll get back on track.
I love it. You act like, I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity for people to work with you. So how can our listeners or people that want to reach out to you, what can they expect when they work with you, either for a speaking engagement or a coaching engagement? What's it like to work with Derrich Phillips, and how does it work?
So my whole approach, what I love, because I love what I do, I feel that this truly is my purpose. I've lived a life of resiliency so I can help others tap into their resilience and be more resilient. But when I work with an organization or individual, the biggest thing they have to realize to get with me is someone that's compassionate, someone who really is going to listen and really help them identify and learn what their problems are, their challenges are. Someone who, going back to the trenches, going to roll up their sleeves and get in the trenches with them, because as the motivational side is just one component, but I realize it's a process as far as getting to that point where you really accomplish those goals. So I'm there from start to finish, and I come ready.
You're committed.
I'm committed.
You're dedicated.
I come dressed to get dirty because
I believe it.
On the battlefield.
Gotta roll up the sleeves,
gotta roll
right?
the sleeves up, yeah. So
that's wonderful.
Definitely.
That's great. So also, it's my understanding that you have your own podcast show. Woohoo! Podcast. It's not on the same time as ours, is it?
It's not.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Didn't want to talk to you if you're going to be competing at the same time. So tell me about your podcast show, what it's about, and how people can connect to it.
So my podcast is called the Mentor Select Podcast, and the motivation behind that is I realize a lot of people, they don't know which direction they want to go in terms of what their purpose is or how to follow their passion, and they need mentorship. Mentorship is very important. So I wanted to provide a podcast which provides that virtual mentorship. So maybe you may not have access to a quality mentor in person, but hey, if you got access to the internet, then you can listen to my podcast. And the whole premise of my podcast, what I do every week, I interview people who love what they do, who feel like they're fulfilling their purpose, no matter what career it is, but they feel like they're fulfilling their purpose and they're making an impact. Right. And they've had to demonstrate resiliency throughout their life. So that's the people I interview. And I feel it's contagious. So you're just listening to it, yes. It's really contagious, and they give really good guidance as far as how other people can fulfill their purpose in life. So
that's so true. When you're doing something you love, oh my gosh, you're good at it.
It's a natural high.
And I always speak about when you're good at something and you're doing something that you love, you're going to have that natural momentum kick in.
Right.
And ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum.
You don't have to force it.
You don't have to force it. That momentum just kicks in, and then it's phenomenal. It just takes a life of its own. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so how can people get a hold of you? Tell people how they can reach out to you and contact you. What is your website?
All right, so my direct number is 214-791-6999. My website is mentorselect.com.
And that's MENTOR
Yep.
select, SELECT.com, right?
Correct.
Okay, and email.
And email is my first name, Derrich, DERRICH, @mentorselect.
That's Derrich. How long did I call you Derrich? I apologize about that.
I may have got you right the first time, but for the longest, I used to go by Derrich. I wouldn't even correct people, but
yeah,
I just
know you're
like
too nice. So it's Derrich, DERRICH @mentorselect.com.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, this has been absolutely fascinating. If you have some last words that you'd like to leave our audience with, what would they be, Derrich?
So tying back into the theme with resiliency is just realizing that there really is strength in struggle. So that means that anything that you've overcome or if you're currently enduring, you're building strength along the way. That it's a reason that you're going through that. And I always tell people, when you go through something, you came out on the other side stronger, and you went through that for a reason. And that reason is so you can help other people who are going through that. So that's so important to me, that you don't take for granted what you've accomplished. You don't take for granted what you've endured, any adversity, because someone else needs.
Embrace it and bring it on.
Embrace it and share that knowledge, share those lessons that you learn, so other people can get through it.
I love it. There is strength in struggle. I love it.
Embrace it.
All right. Thank you, Derrich. You've been fascinating today. Thank you for being a guest on our show. And thank all of you for being with us today as we power up, podcast up,
battle ready, power up.
Battle ready, power up. Get on over here. And thank you very much for joining us. I'll see you next time with Powering Up to be better, faster, stronger. Yay! Arr. Yeah? Arr.
Thanks for listening to Power Up with NSA North Texas. To find out more about today's guest or NSA North Texas, visit www.speaker.org. To find out more about Power Up, visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/groups/NSA North Texas. And to find out more about Betti, visit www.betticoffeepresents.com.